All right, folks, buckle in because today we're digging into 4 stories that really highlight those shaky spots where hard evidence butts up against the tales we tell ourselves and the real risks that get lost in the shuffle. We're talking about NASA's 3-Eye Atlas images from their live stream, the lingering shadows around Camp Hero and the Montauk Project, the ayahuasca scene with insights from the global ayahuasca survey and the tragic Begley case, plus the cutting-edge work in Neuralink's neural implants and artificial placenta research out of places like CHOP. What ties them all together is how they grab public attention while data stays thin on the ground, forcing us into these urgent policy debates without all the facts lined up. It's like chasing shadows in a fog. People get drawn in by the drama, but when you strip it back, you're left wondering what's solid and what's just smoke. Take, for instance, a scenario where someone's scrolling through social media late at night, stumbles on a viral post about secret government experiments at an old military base like Camp Hero. They dive deeper, reading claims from folks like Preston B. Nichols, and suddenly they're piecing together narratives that blend fact with wild speculation. Before long, they're questioning everything, but without concrete records, it's all risk without resolution. That's the kind of gap we're exploring here. To ground this, let's anchor in some real dates and details. NASA's announcement dropped on November 17th, followed by that eye-opening live stream on the 19th, capturing 3-Eye Atlas in action. Then there's the modeled coronal mass ejection, or CME, that's projected to brush close around November 22nd, adding a layer of cosmic drama. Over on the Montauk side, you've got those Camp Hero records and Nichols' accounts stirring the pot. For ayahuasca, the global ayahuasca survey from ICEERS provides some data points, contrasted sharply with the wrongful death verdict in the Begley case. And don't overlook the Neuralink report from Reuters on their latest implantation, alongside CHOP's advances in artificial placenta tech for ectogestation. These aren't just headlines. They're windows into how we handle the unknown. Starting things off, those NASA images of 3-Eye Atlas really set the stage, especially with that potential CME interaction looming. It reminds you how fragile our grasp on space events can be. Stick with me and we'll sort it out. Picture this vast visitor from beyond our solar system, Comet 3-Eye Atlas, caught in the crosshairs of a solar storm. It's the kind of event that reminds you how much we're still piecing together about the cosmos. NASA put out this public live stream on November 19th, sharing fresh images from Hubble, Mars orbiters, and ground-based telescopes, all focused on 3-Eye Atlas. That live stream wasn't just a data dump. It came at a time when interest in interstellar objects is spiking, especially with so few we've spotted so far. For anyone watching, it means getting a front-row seat to raw science, helping separate the wonder from wild guesses. Diving into those images, Hubble captured this striking teardrop-shaped dust cocoon around the comet back on July 21st, while the Mars orbiter snagged views of its tail during the October close encounter. These details matter because they show the comet's structure up close, revealing how dust and gas behave under solar heat. What it implies for us is a better grasp on how these wanderers hold up, potentially clues to their distant origins. On the path it's taking, Three Eyes Atlas was discovered on July 1st, reached its closest point to the Sun, perihelion, on October 29th, and flew by Mars at about 18 to 19 million miles. This trajectory puts it in a rare spot, coming from outside our system and swinging close enough for detailed looks. The payoff is understanding how interstellar comets differ from our local ones, maybe even hinting at chemistry from other stars. Then there's the solar side. A coronal mass ejection, or CME, blasted off from an active sunspot cluster between November 17th and 18th, with SWPC's propagation models suggesting it could cross paths with the comet around November 22nd. These models track how solar eruptions spread through space based on years of satellite data. For listeners, it underscores the sun's reach, showing how its outbursts can rattle distant objects and even affect tech down here. When a CME hits a comet, you get magnetic reconnection, reshuffling fields, ion-tail disconnection where parts break away, plasma compression squeezing the coma, and rapid dust release kicking up material. This happens because the CME's magnetic bubble slams into the comet's own plasma tail, triggering these violent shifts. Think back to 2007, when Comet Encke's tail got disconnected by a CME, observed by the Stereo spacecraft, revealing how magnetohydrodynamic forces play out in real time. That event gave scientists a baseline for how comets respond to solar wind, refining models of magnetic interactions. What it means today is we can build on that, applying lessons to predict outcomes for 3I Atlas and beyond. With monitoring happening right now, there's a chance to really refine estimates on the comet's nucleus size, dust production rates, exposure of volatiles like ices, and those non-gravitational forces from outgassing that nudge its path. Simultaneous observations let us catch changes as they happen, cross-checking data from multiple sources. For the curious mind, this opens doors to deeper insights, like how comets carry building blocks of life or influence solar system evolution. To make the most of it, you need time series imaging across wavelengths, coordinated follow-ups from spacecraft and ground telescopes, and comparisons to MHD models. These ensure the sequence is captured well for later analysis. Ultimately, it equips researchers to validate theories, which could refine our warnings for space weather affecting Earth. Imagine you're an astronomer glued to your screen on November 22nd, watching live feeds as the CME approaches 3I Atlas. Suddenly, the tail flickers and detaches. Data streaming in shows plasma compressing and dust clouds erupting. It's chaos, but in that moment, you're witnessing physics unfold in ways textbooks can't capture. Hours later, analyzing the shifts, you realize it's reshaped your understanding of comet resilience. On the public side, NASA's livestream plays a key role in delivering vetted context, cutting down on speculation and misinformation that often floods in. By sharing directly, they provide a reliable narrative amid the noise of social media hype. This matters because it keeps public trust intact, encouraging informed interest rather than conspiracy spins. I've been thinking about how these cosmic setups, with all their variables, mirror the grit of sticking with a tough project. Setbacks like model errors sharpen your approach. Still, uncertainties linger. Propagation models can have errors, CMEs deform en route, and there's a limit to what one perturbation tells us about the comet's origins. These risks stem from the vast distances and unpredictable solar dynamics involved. For everyone following along, it highlights the patience needed in science. Rushing judgments can miss the bigger picture. All told, this encounter with 3I Atlas and the CME peels back layers on how our sun interacts with interstellar intruders, leaving us with more questions sharpened by fresh data. There's something about old military sites like Montauk Air Force Station that pulls you in, places where real history layers over with layers of wild stories, making you sift through what's solid and what's shadow. The documented side starts with its roots as a coastal defense outpost, evolving into a key Cold War radar hub equipped with SAGE systems and FPS arrays for air surveillance. This setup was all about monitoring threats from the skies during tense times, relying on massive radar tech to track incoming aircraft. What it means for anyone digging in is a reminder of how defense priorities shaped quiet corners of the country, leaving behind structures that echo those eras. The base wrapped up officially on January 31st, 1981, with decommissioning that cleared the way for state park status, though remnants linger. That closure marked the end of its active role, but it didn't erase the footprints of radar towers and bunkers that still dot the landscape. For listeners, it's a lesson in how even shutdown sites carry forward the weight of their past uses. Then the myths kicked off in the early 1990s when Preston B. Nichols and Peter Moon put out self-published books spinning tales of time travel, mind control experiments, and ties to the Philadelphia experiment. These narratives built on whispers of secret projects, drawing from alleged insider accounts to paint a picture of government overreach, gone sci-fi. The implication here is how personal stories can balloon into cultural phenomena, especially when they tap into fears of hidden tech. Central to these claims are figures like Preston B. Nichols, who claimed direct involvement, Al Bielek with his time loop stories, Stuart Swerdlow alleging psychic experiments, and the Montauk Chronicles documentary that wove it all into a visual narrative. These individuals provided the human faces to the lore, sharing accounts that mixed personal trauma with extraordinary assertions. What this means is that the mythology gains traction through named voices, making it feel more tangible even as evidence thins out. Historians put these to the test by pointing out the absence of matching procurement logs, base records, or any independent archives that back the exotic elements. This lack stems from how real black projects leave paper trails, however redacted, while pure fiction often doesn't align with bureaucratic realities. For the rest of us, it underscores the value of cross-checking claims against hard records to avoid getting lost in the haze. Camp Hero's leftover infrastructure, those looming radar towers, underground bunkers, and perimeter fences, feeds right into the narrative's believability, giving a physical anchor to the imagination. These elements, remnants of legitimate military ops, make the wilder tales seem plausible because you can stand there and picture secret goings-on. The upshot is how everyday decay can spark endless speculation, turning history into a canvas for stories. Pop culture amplified it all with Stranger Things, where the show's creators drew on Camp Hero's eerie aesthetics for their fictional lab, sparking a wave of tourism and fresh rumors. This borrowing created a feedback loop, where fiction boosts interest in the real site, drawing crowds to Montauk for a taste of the mystery. What it implies is the power of media to reshape places, sometimes overwhelming the facts with entertainment-driven hype. Imagine wandering the overgrown paths of Camp Hero on a foggy morning, spotting a rusted bunker door half buried in the sand. You recall scenes from Stranger Things, and suddenly the place feels charged with hidden experiments. Your mind fills in gaps with time portals and mind control, even as you know it's just old concrete and steel. By the time you leave, the site's real history blurs with the fiction, leaving you questioning what you believe. That blend is what keeps these spots alive in the public eye. When it comes to survivor testimonies, issues arise with trauma reports colored by retrospective memory, where details shift over time. These accounts deserve empathy, acknowledging the pain described, but they also call for archival checks to verify claims without dismissing the human side. For anyone listening, it means balancing compassion with rigor, ensuring stories don't stand alone without support. Journalists tackling Montauk lean on base logs, procurement records, FOIA requests, and declassified files as the core evidence, sifting through what's verifiable. These tools provide the backbone for credible reporting, grounding investigations in official paper trails rather than hearsay. The implication is a model for how to approach any shrouded history, keeping the pursuit honest and thorough. Zooming out, physical setups like Camp Hero become blueprints for conspiracy tales, influencing local policies on preservation and boosting tourism in ways that mix economic gain with cultural distortion. This happens as sites draw visitors chasing legends, prompting communities to navigate the influx while protecting historical integrity. What it means for locals and observers alike is recognizing how lore can drive real-world changes, for better or worse. I've been thinking about how assessing Black Project claims boils down to practical checks like contemporaneous documentation, budget alignments, and whether the mechanisms even make sense physically. These criteria act as filters, weeding out the implausible by demanding alignment with known science and administration. For the curious, it offers a toolkit to evaluate any shadowy assertion, fostering a grounded skepticism that respects the craft of inquiry. In the end, Montauk stands as a testament to how Cold War relics and modern myths intertwine, urging us to hold fast to evidence amid the pull of the unknown. You know, ayahuasca's pull comes from deep roots, but in today's world, it's tangled up with real risks that demand a clear-eyed look, especially when lives hang in the balance. At its core, the brew pairs Banisteriopsis kaapi, which carries MAOIs to make the experience possible, with DMT as the main psychoactive punch, but throw in interactions with SSRIs or certain meds, and things can go sideways. This combo works by blocking enzymes that break down DMT, allowing it to cross into the brain for those intense visions. Yet those same MAOIs can clash with pharmaceuticals, spiking serotonin to dangerous levels. For anyone considering it, this means understanding your own health history could be the difference between insight and a hospital trip. The Global Ayahuasca Survey, pulling from about 11,000 participants, highlights common physical hits like vomiting, diarrhea, and short-lived heart rate jumps, plus adverse events that hinge on the setting. These effects stem from the brew's purgative nature, often seen as part of the process in traditional contexts, but in less controlled environments, they can escalate if not managed. What this tells listeners is that while many walk away fine, the context shapes the outcome, urging caution in how and where you engage. ICEers dove into forensic data, finding that media-hyped deaths seldom link directly to ayahuasca toxicity via autopsies or toxicology, often tying back to other factors instead. Their reviews comb through cases where reports jump to conclusions, but hard evidence points to complications like pre-existing conditions or mixed substances. The implication here is a call for nuance. Don't buy into sensational headlines without digging into the details, as it affects how we view the practice overall. In commodified retreats, hazards pile up with add-ons like cambo, skimpy medical checks, too much fluid pushing, and slow responses to emergencies. These stem from the rush-to-package experiences for tourists, where profit edges out safety protocols that traditional healers might enforce. For participants, it underscores the gamble in unregulated spots, where one oversight can turn a journey into tragedy. Picture signing up for a retreat at a place like SoulQuest, feeling the excitement build as the group gathers. But then during the ceremony, a hidden health issue flares up amid the combo and brew, and help arrives too late because screening was lax. You wake up to news of a fellow participant's collapse, realizing how thin the safety net was. That stark moment drives home the human cost when operations cut corners. The Begley case set a legal marker with its May 15, 2024 wrongful death verdict, pinning operational negligence on SoulQuest Church of Mother Earth for failings that led to Brandon Begley's death. This ruling came after evidence showed lapses in care during a ceremony, highlighting how retreat leaders bear responsibility for participant safety. What it means for the broader scene is a wake-up call. Courts are stepping in, pushing for accountability that could reshape how these spaces operate. Traditional practices under vegetalistas include built-in safeguards like strict dietary rules and post-ceremony integration, which fade in tourist-driven markets hungry for quick experiences. These indigenous methods evolved over generations to mitigate risks, emphasizing preparation and follow-up that gets sidelined when commerce takes over. For modern seekers, this contrast implies leaning toward rooted approaches might offer safer paths, preserving the essence without the erosion. On the epidemiology front, we need standardized forensic reporting, open toxicology data, and clear adverse event logs from clinical trials to track patterns accurately. This push comes from gaps in how incidents get documented, often leaving questions unanswered without uniform standards. The upshot for researchers and regulators is building a reliable database that informs safer practices down the line. Policy-wise, recommendations lean toward mandatory medical screenings, having medical staff on site, clear lists of contraindications, and licensing for retreats to enforce basics. These steps address the Wild West feel of some operations, drawing from lessons in similar fields like adventure tourism. For communities and participants, it could mean fewer preventable harms, fostering trust in the process. When journalists cover this, steering clear of blanket praise or condemnation helps, focusing instead on autopsy reports, trial records, and peer-reviewed studies for grounded takes. This vocabulary keeps reporting balanced, avoiding hype that skews perceptions either way. What it implies is better informed public discourse, where facts lead over emotions. I've been thinking about the longer haul, where ethically run clinical trials, shared safety protocols, and respect for indigenous ways could bridge gaps in our understanding. These needs arise from the blend of ancient practice and modern science, calling for collaboration that honors origins while advancing knowledge. For everyone involved, it points to a future where benefits outweigh risks through careful, inclusive work. Wrapping this thought, ayahuasca's story is one of potent potential, shadowed by real dangers, best navigated with eyes wide open to the evidence at hand. We're stepping into territory where tech meets the brain and body in ways that push boundaries, raising questions about what's possible and what safeguards we need to keep it grounded. Neuralink has come out saying they've implanted 12 individuals, with Reuters digging in to connect those to ongoing trials at Barrow Neurological Institute. This rollout happens amid clinical tests focused on paralysis patients, where the implants aim to restore function through direct neural links. For those following, it signals real progress but also spotlights the human stakes, reminding us these aren't just gadgets, they're life-altering for the people involved. On the clinical side, these devices translate neural signals into cursor movements or control interfaces, with ongoing tweaks to hardware and software fixing early glitches, all while sticking to therapeutic goals for now. The process involves electrodes picking up brain activity, algorithms interpreting it for actions like moving a mouse, and updates that refine accuracy over time. What this means for patients is a shot at independence, but it also highlights limits, like how far we are from seamless integration. Shifting to ectogestation, work at CHOP and university labs has shown artificial placentas sustaining lamb fetuses in extreme prematurity scenarios, as covered by the BBC. These trials use fluid-filled bags mimicking the womb, providing oxygen and nutrients to keep development on track without traditional incubation. The implication hits hard for neonatal care, potentially saving lives of the tiniest preemies, though it opens doors to broader ethical debates. Regulators are navigating this with FDA pathways for implantable devices, but there are holes when it comes to consumer neurotech, plus UNESCO's fresh recommendations on neurotechnology oversight. The FDA's routes involve rigorous testing for safety and efficacy, yet off-the-shelf brain gadgets slip through without the same scrutiny, while UNESCO pushes for global standards on rights and ethics. For everyday folks, this patchwork means varying protections, urging a push for consistency to avoid uneven risks. Treating neural data as its own policy beast calls for mental privacy shields, strict opt-in consent, and criminal bites for any misuse. This stems from how brain signals reveal thoughts and emotions, unlike other biometrics, demanding tailored laws to prevent exploitation. What it boils down to is safeguarding the inner self, ensuring tech doesn't strip away personal boundaries without permission. Ethically, there's a line between therapy that restores lost abilities and speculative boosts for the healthy, with talk that muddies the waters between the two. Current efforts focus on helping those with disabilities regain control, but hype around enhancement blurs into elective upgrades, raising questions of access and fairness. For listeners, it invites reflection on where we draw limits, lest medical tools morph into privilege amplifiers. Failure modes demand long-term safety tracking, clear removal steps, rules on firmware updates, and ways to port data if needed. These protections address risks like implant degradation or company shutdowns, ensuring patients aren't left in the lurch. The key takeaway is building resilience into the system, so tech serves without trapping users. Imagine landing a job where the boss hints at better opportunities if you get a neural implant for productivity tracking, but opting out feels like risking your livelihood. Suddenly, your brain data's feeding into company metrics, sold off to advertisers, and you're wondering if that cross-border data flow means foreign entities peek into your thoughts. It's a slippery slope that starts with convenience and ends in quiet coercion. That scenario captures the societal pitfalls, like employer pressure, insurers nudging for discounts, monetizing neural feeds, and unchecked data hopping borders. Broader risks include widening inequalities, where only some afford enhancements or privacy erodes as thoughts become commodities. I've been thinking about how these advancements, much like honing a craft through setbacks, require us to prioritize closing gaps in oversight to keep the progress honest. Policy should zero in on sealing holes for implantable brain-computer interfaces, funding impartial studies on outcomes, and limiting elective ectogestation tests to strict neonatal needs. These steps come from spotting where regulations lag, ensuring innovations don't outpace safety nets. For society, it means fostering tech that heals without inviting unchecked experimentation. In public talk, we need sharp lines between restorative clinical uses and wild transhumanist pitches, along with required consent rules that spell out every angle. This clarity counters overhyped narratives, grounding discussions in what's real versus what's wishful. Ultimately, it empowers people to engage knowingly, turning complex tech into something approachable rather than overwhelming. We must demand rules that protect patients and data. All said, these neural and gestational strides carry profound promise, tempered by the steady work of governance to match pace. Wrapping things up, let's circle back to the hard facts that stuck out across these stories, pulling together what we've sifted through. On the cosmic front, NASA's images of 3-Eye Atlas captured that teardrop dust cocoon and tail views, with CME modeling pointing to a potential November 22nd intersection that could reveal plasma dynamics. Shifting to Montauk, the archival records show a Cold War radar base, decommissioned in 1981, stark against the myths of time travel and mind control, lacking any procurement logs or corroboration. With ayahuasca, surveys and forensics highlight physical effects like vomiting, but rare direct toxicity, contrasted by operational slips like in the Begley verdict against Soul Quest for negligence. Then there's the neural side, with Neuralink's 12 implants at Barrow translating signals to controls, and CHOP's artificial placenta sustaining lamb fetuses, marking real steps in ectogestation. Threading through all this is how public fascination clashes with spotty data, making solid records essential for holding claims accountable. Without them, narratives run wild and risks go unchecked. It's like piecing together a half-finished puzzle. You see the allure, but incomplete pieces leave you guessing, and that's where authoritative archives step in to ground the truth. Imagine diving into a story that grabs you, like those Montauk tales, but when you chase the facts, the gaps force you to lean on FOIA files instead of hearsay. Suddenly, the myth crumbles under the weight of missing evidence, teaching you to value the grind of verification. That tension between curiosity and proof is what keeps these topics alive, sharpening our approach to the unknown. If you're inclined to dig deeper, primary sources are out there. NASA's releases and spacecraft imagery for Comet details, base records and FOIA pulls for Montauk, the PLOS Global Public Health Study alongside ICEER's reports for ayahuasca insights, plus trial records and Reuters reporting on neural advances. These materials offer the raw groundwork, letting you build your own understanding without the filter of second-hand spins. Keep an eye on policy moves too, like SWPC's push for clearer forecasting, standardized forensic protocols, retreat screening mandates, and emerging neural data laws. They're the guardrails shaping how these fields evolve. I've been thinking about how staying tuned to evidence, archives, and governance like this keeps us steady, turning curiosity into something solid. That's the grind for today. Catch you on the next one. Stay skeptical.
Past the lies to the frequency of fear, where history's whispers are loud and clear. Solar flares